Allah, Yahweh, Bashim, Shah. Yahweh, Bashim, Shah. Rakata, Yahweh, Shah. Rakata, Yahweh. Rakata, Yahweh. Rakata, Yahweh, Shah.
Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord.
The second letter of Peter, chapter 1. Simon Peter, a servant and apostle of God, to them that have obtained like precious faith with us through the righteousness of God and our Savior. Grace and peace be multiplied unto you through the knowledge of God and of our Lord, according as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, to the knowledge of him that hath called us to glory and virtue, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. And beside this, giving all diligence, and to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance.
Let the golden light of this sunset guide our hearts in peace.
And to temperance, patience, and to patience, godliness, and to godliness, brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness, charity. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord. But he that lacketh these things is blind, and cannot see afar off, and hath forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. Wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if ye do these things, ye shall never fall. For so an entrance shall be ministered unto you abundantly into the everlasting kingdom of our Lord and Savior. Wherefore, I will not be negligent to put you always in remembrance of these things, though ye know them and be established in the present truth.
Yahweh, Bashim, Shah. Yahweh, Bashim, Shah. Rakata, Yahweh, Shah. Rakata, Yahweh. Rakata, Yahweh. Rakata, Yahweh, Shah.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Shah. All right, and what I want to get into with this lesson, all right, the devil at work, okay, destruction of motherhood, okay, as we know Esau Edom, all right, the scriptures say he was given power to take peace from the earth, all right, and this man is anti-life, you know, he's anti-peace, okay, he's anti-family, okay, everything that the Lord created, you know, for good, this man has turned into wickedness. You see, and this man has the earth completely turned upside down. Okay, and this is why, you know, Yahweh Shah is coming to uproot Esau from power. Okay, put his ass in captivity. All right, and he's going to be done away with. Okay, and these heathens that have been, you know, instilled, okay, and influenced by Esau. All right, this rigorous captivity, okay, is going to be for correction. It's going to be a punishment and for a correction for them. Okay, which Esau, he can't be corrected. You know, this thing was made with a default, okay, to where he can't receive correction. You know, he will always seek, for opportunity to do wickedness, okay, and establish wickedness in the earth, man. You see? So this man has really showed, what he would do with power and authority, and that would be to establish wickedness, confusion, death, chaos, okay, forever, man. You see? And now he's trying to do it through a technocracy. All right. Now, let's get a few precepts, and I got a video I want to go into, just to show you how wicked this nigga is, man. Okay. Now let's go to the book of Isaiah 29 and 16. It says, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as a potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say to him that framed it, he have no understanding? Okay, so this man has turned what the Lord established as good from the beginning in Genesis, and he's completely turned these things upside down backwards, man. Okay, and this man moves as if the Most High is lacking the understanding, and he needs to modify creation. Okay, but it says it's going to be esteemed as a potter's clay, and when the potter, didn't like his product, well, he would just destroy their product and start over. Okay, or he would destroy their product and start on something else, man. So he saw their product, their defect. He's that vessel that has a defect that the Lord is just going to destroy. Okay, and establish a righteous kingdom with his sons. And that's why he's molding his sons to perfection, beginning with Yahweh Shah, who's perfected. Okay, and Lord will we endure, will be perfected as though joint heirs with Yahweh Shah. The rest of the 1/3 men, women, and children are going to be changed and perfected. Those perfect vessels for rulership, man. Okay, but Esau is that vessel with a defect, all right, that has to be removed. You see? So when you go here to the book of Job, chapter 10. All right. Well, let me read this in the NLT. All right, because I want to make the point how the devil. Let me see. This is Isaiah 29 and 16 in the NLT. It says, how foolish can you be? He is the potter, and he is certainly greater than you, the clay. Should the created thing say of the one who made it, he didn't make me? Does a jar ever say, the potter who made me is stupid? Okay, so Esau moves as if he has some type of deeper wisdom than the Most High. Okay, his whole thing is undermining what the Most High has already set up. Okay, the Lord has set up particular, has the Lord set up creation, okay, in a specific way. You see, and everything has its purpose. Everything, already has a built-in instructions, okay, in the way that it should function. And this man is all about disrupting that and saying that he's upgraded, with the claim that he's making it better, that the claim that he's found another way, a better way. That's Esau's whole claim. The way he markets himself as if he has a better way than the Most High. Everything he does is based on the GMO crops, okay, the surgeries. You see, everything this devil does is about him. His technology, merging you with technology. It's all about him saying, I got a better way, which is absolutely false, man. Okay, so when you go here with this man, it's the type of society that this man has established. Okay, it's completely backwards. Okay, it's rebellion. And ultimately, it's an inferior way. You see, and he pushes his ways as inferior, as superior to the Most High. But ultimately, it's inferior, man. And that's why the earth is dying. People, unaliving themselves, man, because this man has established an inferior way in the earth, with the claim that this is superior, man. You see, this is Job 10:21 said, before I go whence, I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death, and this is us not coming back, to America. Okay. Once this place is destroyed, we'll never be brought back here, man. Okay? And the earth will never be brought to this state again. You know, the earth will never be a shadow of death. Esau has turned the earth into a shadow of death, especially here in America, man. Okay? Job 10:22 says, a land of darkness is darkness itself, and the shadow of death without any order, where the light is as darkness, man. Okay? So this is a very dark place. It's darkness itself, man, and the shadow of death. Okay? Death is always the vibe. Death is the tone of this society. You know, an argument can turn to a death. A social media post turn to a death. Dealing with a woman, you turn to death. You know, the food, death. You see? Everything, you work in a certain plant. Okay? You breathe in certain, you're exposed to certain things that you can breathe in, death. You know, everything causes cancer, man. It's just a shadow of death. You see, without any order, okay? Because this place is being ran without true order. You see? America is being ran, all right, as a big scam. You know, when you look at America and how it's ran, America is one big scam, continuous scam, man. Okay, say where the light, where righteousness is as darkness, man. They're going to show you how this man, portrays, right things as darkness, man. He demonizes the natural way. Okay, he demonizes the ways of the Most High. Okay, he demonizes light as darkness, man, and he puts his darkness as if it's the light. If it's his progress and transcendent, he makes it seem as darkness is transcendent, man. Okay, so when you go from there, let's get this. Got a quick video I want to get in with. All right, so going into how this man played a part, even destroying the process of motherhood. So let's play this.
The United States ranks 56 in the world regarding outcomes for mother and baby. So what that means is mortality and morbidity. So mortality is death. Did they die? And then morbidity is, was there a long-term injury sustained, something permanent? So mortality and morbidity. And then when I give you these numbers, we're looking at the first year. If you've taken a CPR class before, you've probably noticed that they say something kind of silly and they go, blank amount of people get saved when you use CPR. But then there's the fine print underneath that, and it goes only 33% left the hospital. So we need to understand, when we're looking at statistics, we need to understand what statistic are they giving us. And so when I'm giving you these numbers, what I'm telling you is they survived the first year. So we rank 56, the United States, which means there are 55 other countries that have better outcomes than we do here in the United States. And
now all this technology and all this wealth that the U.S. has, why are they the 56? Okay, when it comes to mortality rate for U.S. Mothers. Okay, why do you have a higher chance as a mother of dying in these American hospitals than 55 other countries? When all this America #1. Okay, and what you people are gonna, well, you people just gonna get nuked, man. Okay, you Americans just gonna get nuked. Okay, because you don't give a damn. All right, like Scott Ritter say, long as you can buy a pizza and some beer on Friday, you American don't give a damn about nothing, man. All right, your government absolutely hates you. Everything is set up to destroy you. Okay, but you dumb niggas finna go get them American top hats. All right, you're gonna have on those American top hats. All right, for the 4th of July, look dressed like Uncle Sam. You niggas finna dress like Uncle Sam. Okay, and drink and eat poison. Okay, in honor of your death coat government, man. Okay, so let's play this.
Outcomes in the first year postpartum. So that's pretty shocking. Then most of those countries that are on that list, right? Because there's only 100 and something countries in the world. And so when we look at those numbers, that means that a lot of those countries are going to be what the World Health Organization, Amnesty International, et cetera, those alphabet soup agencies would be considered as third world countries. So that means that it's safer to have babies in what we would consider third world countries.
So that's crazy. So that America, and even that right there alone, that actually America ranks behind a lot of third world countries in terms of the health of baby and mother.
Right. And if anyone is savvy on statistics that is listening to this, you should also know that we're not just looking at population, because that's not a proper statistic. Okay, that will skew numbers, because obviously India has way more people than the United States. So if you're only going off of numbers, right, that would not be a proper statistic. So we're looking at the overall data and the overall outcomes. We're looking at percentages. If you go to the World Health Organization, and I understand we probably agree on them, they're not my favorite people either. The reason I'm using them in this data is because they have decade upon decade upon decade of data regarding birth outcomes. So we need to look at the numbers. If you go to the World Health Organization, you go to maternity, you scroll to the bottom, they have a map of the world and you can hover over it. And they change their website often. So if you're doing this right now, it looks like you are, you may struggle, but I'll walk you through it if we can do it together. But you can look at their map essentially, and you can look at where each country ranks. And they may also have like maybe they're, I don't know what graph they're using, but the last time I was on there, that's what they were using. So you can look at decade upon decade of.
Oh, here it is right here.
There you go. Perfect. They are still using it.
Okay.
So you can look at where we're struggling with outcomes. The United States also ranks 10th out of the top 10 industrialized nations. So who's on the top 10 industrialized nation list? That's going to be the UK, Ireland, Australia, Canada, a lot of the like Finland, Norway, right? Countries, a lot of European countries are going to be on the top 10 industrialized nations, and the United States ranks less. That means you have better outcomes for birth in Canada or Australia or the UK. And so anyone who loves statistics would be instantaneously asking, well, why? What are they doing different than the United States? And that's very easy.
So out of the 10 industrial, top industrial nations, these first world, they call first world nations. Okay, America is number 10, last. Okay, your good old US of A, dead last, man. Okay, when it comes to mortality, all right, in mothers, you see.
All of those people are seeing midwives first and getting their care primarily from a midwife before they ever see an OBGYN.
Oh.
So OBGYN is a surgeon. So if you're going to a surgeon, let's reverse this. If you had an issue with your head and you needed to have surgery on your head because let's just say there was a tumor, right? You would want a surgeon to remove the tumor. But let's pretend you didn't want to do that methodology for your treatment. You would prefer to go a more natural route. Would you go to a surgeon and then have them guide you through how to do the natural route? No, you would not. That's not what they sell there. That's like going to McDonald's and asking for a steak. They don't sell that there. So what we're doing is we're taking women who want normal physiological birth, and we're putting them in an institution that sells surgeries. It doesn't add up. So we also have to look at birth as a physiological process, meaning women have the capability of giving birth automatically. It's only when something arises that is out of the ordinary where we need something that the surgeon is selling, and that is very rare. So if you go back to the World Health Organization data and you look at what they're saying and you read the fine print, they say that 90% of birth is uneventful. So what does that mean? That means that 90% of the time we do not need any assistance with birth, as in baby can be born in the rice paddy and mama can go back to picking rice. I don't recommend that. That's really bad postpartum care. Please don't do that to your women. However, what I'm saying is that 90% of the time we do not need what the hospital is selling. And out of that 10%, less than that 10%, it fluctuates between 5 and 7. Do we actually need a cesarean? That means there's a 3 to 5% of we just need something else that they sell, maybe Pitocin or maybe assisted delivery or maybe pain management or something along those lines. That's a very small percentage of individuals that need assistance.
And then those C-sections, all right, which, you know, like you said, is rare, you know, that a childbirth is eventful to where they will actually need surgery, you know, especially those women that are going to those midwives, which that's an ancient custom. Okay. And that's what we did as a people. All right. That's why you can go to the book of Exodus, which we'll get it. But, you know, so you go into the C-section. I know El Joshua Wamba used to bring it out a lot, you know, how that baby traveling through that canal of the woman, you know, going through that bacteria. All right, it aids their immune system. All right, the child's immune system, like that whole process is necessary. The Lord got it set up for a reason. Okay, but his man, like I say, all he does is disrupt. Okay, what is. Okay, and he uses for opportunity to make profit and also to destroy people. You know, and she's going to go into it. The bond between the child and the mother is destroyed. Okay. And you can tell that's evident. All right. With the relationship that a lot of women have with their children, you know, and there's even more factors. Because once you have this nigga, okay, then he's going to put you on the formula. Okay. So you already have this nigga in a very unnatural setting. Then you put this nigga on unnatural formula. Okay. Then you feed him unnatural food. Then he's listening to unnatural, you know, entertainment and stimulations. Okay. So it's just meant to destroy a family. All right. So let's play a little more of this.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so I'll put out here. This map is really fascinating. So this is from 2023, and it's showing the maternal mortality ratio per 100,000 rates. Right. So looking at, per 100,000 live births. So this is okay. I'm assuming this is basically how many mothers die during birth per 100,000 live births, and it's kind of wild. So you look at let's look at say in the DRC Congo, over 400. Right, that's a bad number. Right, over 400 are dying. But then you look at United States, it's like there's 17. Okay, well even look at over at Iran is 16. So actually a mother has a higher chance of surviving birth in a hospital in Iran than United States, which is kind of
midwives,
or Romania, which is 12, right? You look at, you might think, 17 is not that bad. Well, yeah, well, Australia is 2.3.
Correct.
You know, Sweden is 4. You know, Russia is 9.4. So Russia is almost double the health of the mother than America. I mean, even.
And these are countries, a lot of countries that what he demonizes. Okay, these are certain countries that he demonizes, but it's much more healthy, all right, and much more safe for women. These are the same nations that he'll say hate women. You know, Iran, oh, they women are slaves, they women they can't wear this and they can't, you know. And he may seem like he loved women so goddamn much. Okay, and a bunch of simple ass stupid women still believe that their love, their government cares for them in America because they allow them to be whores and get C-sections. Okay? And OnlyFans. You know, they look at that, the society is you know, is woman friendly. No, it destroys you, man. You see?
China is better, 16. So for all the people that think, oh, America is just, we're the best, we're the number one, this is shocking to people that, especially that this is their first time hearing it.
Right. And when you think about how many babies are born per year, it sounds like only 17 women are dying, right? If we're just, because if you read that and you don't understand statistics, you're going, oh, just 17. But no, there's not 100,000 births in a year. There's multiple hundreds of thousands of births every year, which means, and it wouldn't even matter if it was only 17 women, because now we're going, those 17 women belong to families. There's someone's wife, mother, daughter, auntie. When we lose a woman in a family unit, there's a huge shift, right? There's a lot of things that are no longer going to get done. There are a lot of things that change in a family dynamic when we lose a woman. So that's huge, right? Children no longer have a parent that's a primary caregiver, right? There's a lot of things that happen in a family when we lose a mama. Our mama's going to die during birth. Yes. Our baby's going to die during birth. Yes. The act of dying is a part of being alive, right? We live in a fallen world. So that is absolutely part of being alive, is dying, and we're not guaranteed how many days we get on this planet. So we have to also look at that from that lens as well, but we want to minimize that as much as we can. And we have countries that are doing things completely different than us and having way better outcomes, and it is midwives, and that is understanding what that word means, and that is women caring for women. We know how our body works. We know what is normal. We went to school for a really long time to know how to care for women and provide support for normal physiological physiological birth, pardon me. You don't need help going to the bathroom in the morning. Each one of us wake up, we go to the bathroom, we pee, we don't need any assistance. Are there people on this planet that need assistance to do that? Yes, but that is very far and few between. However, if you and I woke up in the morning and there was an entire group of people in my bathroom that I don't know, I've never met before, bright lights, my legs thrown up in stirrups, there's no way I could pee. I can't perform under that type of pressure. Why are we doing that to women? Why are we putting them in that situation?
Well, and that's, because I remember when I was kind of studying this and going through the process with my wife, again, through 2 different births, that one of the big things that I learned was that a woman's level of oxytocin is directly related to her ability to loosen up and give birth. And so that oxytocin comes from me massaging her, us playing peaceful music, creating that environment where she feels really safe, versus, like you mentioned, if you're sitting in this sterile white hospital room with bright fluorescent lights, with multiple people that all have masks on, by the way, and some male doctor, right? Any normal woman is going to feel some level of stress, whether it's spiking cortisol, whatever it is. If she's spread open and there's some strange guy that's there looking at her with a clipboard, I mean, it's like, no wonder that so often they're doing cesareans, or you talk to a friend, oh, I had a 36-hour labor. Oh, I had a 24-hour labor. The baby wasn't coming. They did a cesarean. It's like, they're not looking, from what I'm seeing, it's, I guess you could say it's planned this way, that it's like almost as if they're intentionally trying to make it as difficult as possible. That way they can sell their cesareans, they can sell their Pitocin. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well,
yeah, and this is the devil. He intentionally, because he searches these things out, so he intentionally makes things difficult, okay, so he can sell you a product, okay, and destroy you, have long-term, all right, effects that destroy you, because he knows these things, the birth canal, okay, and the benefits of the child. He knows these things, man. All right, but he's the devil. Okay, so let's get some precepts. All right. Let's get some precepts, man. Esau was just a goddamn devil, man. This not medical information or suggestion, you know, how anyone should go forward with birth. We're just going into how it should be and how it is. Okay, because at the end of the day, all right, this place needs to be destroyed. Okay, and Yahweh Shai, all right, needs to rule the earth in righteousness, man. Okay, that's a solution to the madness that this man has going on. Okay, now you go here. So when you go into the history, all right, I just looked up the history of the demonization of midwives. It says, uh, it said the demonization of midwives in America was a systemic century-long campaign driven by medical establishment, all right, by the medical establishment during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Male physicians and American Medical Association, these are Edomites, American Medical Association actively pushed midwives out of practice by branding them as dirty, ignorant, and dangerous. The rise of organized medicine and uh, was it obscure uh, obstetrics, if I'm saying it right, obstetrics. I think I'm saying, yeah, obstetrics. It says position competition. It says in the late 1800s and early 1900s, obstetrics. Okay, obstetrics. I think I'm saying it right. Yeah, obstetrics is growing lucrative business, medical, and that's just going into his way of childbirth. Through the hospitals. Okay. And it says medical professionals aim to shift birth from home into hospitals, which require removing midwives who historically attended home births. It says the Flexner Report. In 1910, this influential report recommended the standardization of medical education and actively called for hospital deliveries and the abolition of midwifery. Okay, the abolition of midwifery. It says prominent obstetricians, all right, in medical journals openly disparage or, you know, demonize, okay, the practice in 1915. Okay, they began to demonize heavy, all right, being the midwife. All right, said Dr. Joseph D. Lee famously referred to midwifery as relic, all right, a relic of barbarism, okay, as if his way was superior. Here it is, you have the midwife, these women that coach these women through the birth. Okay, they coach these women up, they're familiar with these women, they grow relationships, they grow bonds, and it puts the woman at ease to, push out the baby, and then they're using gravity, with the stool, which, so we'll get that in Exodus. Okay, you have this natural birth, and then you have the you first have the child. The woman is supposed to put the child to her skin. They're supposed to be skin to skin. She's supposed to touch her skin with the child's skin. That's a part of their bonding. Okay, but in this hospital, what do? They have the child, and then they separate the child and the mother immediately. Okay, and they do that intentionally, man. But he say the midwifery is barbarism. It's barbaric, basically. Okay, but his way is superior. The big, building, and you see the lights, and all these, so-called health professionals. Okay, and that's what this man does, man. He always presents his way as superior and the way of the Most High inferior. And that's what this whole New World Order, that's the theme of the New World Order is, look, we come into something superior with this technology. You see, it said hospital births and university trained doctors were positioned as a premium standard, while midwifery was culturally framed as an inferior second-class healthcare option for the poor. It said the marginalization of Black midwives. It says granny midwives, Black midwives known as grand midwives, because an Israelite woman was so good at delivering these children, and they were calling them grand midwives, man. You see? because that's yeah, we gotta get back to order, man. Okay, we getting back to order. It said historically attended the vast majority of births in the American South, acting as the backbone of maternal care from the 1600s through the mid 1900s, man, for almost 300 years. It says state and federal restrictions, federal policies like the Towner Act in 1920 allowed white-led, okay, Edomites health boards to systematically grade older black midwives. These boards frequently undervalued, disregarded, and stigmatized their intensive culturally and grounded, all right, experience. You see, because hey, the woman still had that knowledge, you know, because they, even though they came and got us from Africa, but we know we Israelites, you see, and their knowledge of midwifery, you know, the woman still had it when they was brought over here in slave ships. You know, they still had that knowledge. Okay, when it came to childbirth, man, it says state level laws actively outlaw midwifery or severely restricted the practice, all right, of uh, obstetrics, all right, to doctors. This targeted campaign pushed skilled black women, healers, skilled black women, all right, Israelite women, healers, and midwives to margins, severely reducing their involvement in the community healthcare, man. So midwives were demonized, okay, and eventually outlawed. And then you even had, you know, wanted posters of midwives, all right, in during this propaganda during the early 1900s. Okay, I wonder if they, yep, well, you see that? It's a witches, midwives, and nurses. You see, they was deemed to be looked at as witches. So you even had a book called Witches, Midwives, and Nurses. Okay, from midwives to medicine. Witches, midwives, nurses. Yep. So they demonized it, man. Okay, so they demonized, all right, the midwives. Okay, well, I said what they call the Israelite women. Okay, those grand midwives. All right, you got the history said black women were the first birth workers in America, man. Okay, they had that knowledge, man, of childbirth. You see, they were those go-to midwives. All right, but they began to be demonized when Esau got to a certain level with his technology. He began to demonize it to push his way. Okay, well, showing you that where did they get that knowledge from? Okay, well, they've been had, you know, we've been had as a people. Okay, but we're people of life, man. You see, so when you go here to the book of Exodus, chapter let's get to the point. So this is when Pharaoh wanted to reduce the male population, okay, among Jake, because he's seen Israel populated. Then he looked at, he was intimidated. You see Pharaoh looking at Jake, you know, working, you know, this nigga intimidated. So then they were like, look, we gotta start knocking the male population down, because that's what the strength of a nation is. Okay. So when you go to Exodus 1 and 15, it says, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives. You see that? Of which the name of the one was Sapphira and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, showing you that it was on stools using with gravity to help them with the childbirth. Okay. And this law said, this is not medical information. Okay. This is not medical suggestions. Okay. Just going through the history and the facts. All right. It says, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared the Most High and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive, because those women understood that the strength of their nation was the men. They valued the men of their nation. Okay. It says, verse 18, it said, the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwife come in unto them, and babies just coming out. You know, and then they was running game on Pharaoh too, because they didn't want to destroy, all right, the men of their nation, man. Okay, why? Because see, in Esau's hospital, which, you know, even child mortality, okay, is high. Infant mortality is higher than other nations. Why is that, man? Because these women don't give a damn about these children. You're just another person coming in there giving birth. Okay, but these women, well, they will grow a bond with the woman, with the mother. A lot of times it'll be their kinsmen, then it's of their own nation. Okay, so these women, you know, they knew these women, so it's like, I'm not finna, you know, you're a midwife, but this midwife might be your best friend. You're not finna, you know, kill your best friend's son. You know, damn that nigga Pharaoh, man. Okay, but most of you women listen to the modern Pharaoh of Egypt, of New Egypt, America, man. Okay, and you don't mind, you know, you delete the pregnancy. Okay, it said, therefore the Most High dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. Okay, so midwives was a thing, even going back to Exodus, man. This is ancient practice, man. Okay, it was a normal part of childbirth. Okay, but in this modern era, there's something that Esau demonized. Okay, and you know, he transferred, you know, the childbirth, you know, to his way. Okay, which has, you know, all type of negative effects, man, when you go into it. You see, so let's go here, man, because this devil. Let's get this in the book of Proverbs chapter 4. In Proverbs 4:16, it said, for they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. You know, so this devil is not satisfied, you know, until he's, you know, set up some type of new mischief. Okay, as he calls some to fall, man, as he calls, you know, people, all right, to be negatively affected by his policies and laws. Okay, he gets off on that, man. You know, because it's about a profit, but then it's also about, you know, him causing people to fall, destroying families, destroying motherhood, destroying fatherhood, destroying whatever he can destroy, destroying the children, setting the children up for failure, man. Okay, and he's all about setting, okay, people up for failure, man, especially, okay, the tribes. You see, and that's why at the end of the day, it's all about Yahweh Shai coming and uprooting this man. Okay, let's get that and we can close out. Okay, this is yeah, let's get that in the book of 2nd Esdras. The book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 4. I believe 28. All right, this is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 4, verse 28. It said, but as concerning the things whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee, for the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. Okay, so the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. So Esau, Edom is the wicked, the evil that's been sown in the earth, man. You know, even when you go back to the garden, okay, going to serpent. All right, Esau runs the earth with that wickedness of the serpent, that witchcraft of the serpent, man. the rebellion of the serpent, because the serpent was all about rebellion. Okay, well, you know, the serpent used to be a man, but they liken him to a serpent for his craftiness, man. Okay, his subtlety. You see, that's the characteristics of a serpent, but we know as a man. Okay, and it says, if therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good, man. So this is why, you know, Yahweh Shai just coming to uproot this whole kingdom. Okay, by enslaving, all right, the elites and you, all right, remaining Edomites, destroying America, turned into a desert. Okay, destroying the militaries of the heathen, putting all the heathen in captivity, man, and then began to establish a righteous government. Okay, a kingdom ran in true wisdom, true righteousness, man. You see? So that's the point, you know, just wanted to tap into that. You know, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing salutation to the whole fleet. Shalom.